I'm just trying to wake you up. All right. I'm just trying to wake you up. I promise I don't play music like this all the time. Like I said, I will likely shake it up every once in a while for the good weather blogs. But hey, it's quite the headbanger, right? Hey, good morning, guys. It is 9:51 on this Juneteenth. I hope you guys are doing well. Got a little bit of sleep. I know last night it was one of those nights where that rolling thunder is actually good sleeping weather in that sense. I think everyone's just on edge waiting for any worries with any type of flash flooding that could happen, and obviously some strong winds at times. It was a very weird setup yesterday, right? With the thunderstorms, I came home and I had tree limbs down in several spots. Some I didn't even notice until this morning. Even though the wind, at least the gauges that I have, didn't really register a very strong wind, but there was quite a bit of small limbs down, tree branches down all over the place. So it was one of those just very weird setups yesterday, but thankfully no one was hurt. Even though we had some really strong wind gusts in Indiana, I think we really got the better end of the deal, especially for compared to Indianapolis, where I think it's the third time. I want to say it's the third time this year they have had a Boeing segment that has moved into the Indianapolis metro with hurricane force plus winds, which is just wild. I mean, everything likes to repeat, as we always say, in the weather, and this year is no different. But having said that, we're about to shake things up into a pattern that I think a lot of you will love, including, I don't know if he's on here or not, but Stephen Decker, who is one of our followers on here. He's all about the 90s, so he will be very happy about this outlook. So, Stephen, I hope you're watching. All right, but before we get to that, I got to cover the radar today because we do have some downpours today. No, we're not expecting severe weather, but we do have some scary-looking clouds be passing through. You probably have already noticed that. I'm going to cover that. Then we'll get into the heat. As always, you guys can comment on the social media side as well. For those watching on streaming, you can't see the comments, but I'll refer to them. Like Morgan's comment from YouTube. New wrestling entrance music just dropped. Blue, a surprise. Third option of rock music. Yeah, you know what? Wait until tomorrow. I'll find something different. Trust me. Let's see. Carrie said we got a ton of rain. 1/100th. Feel for you, Carrie. Feel for you. Hi, Angela. I hope you're doing well. Okay, so here we go. Let's start with the current setup outside, which is looking to the north, by the way, from the harbors in Jeffersonville. And you can see this line of, really, it doesn't have any lightning yet. It could develop lightning, but in general, it's just a round of heavy downpours that are approaching the Louisville area. So it's slowly working its way down 65. If you're around northern Clark County, Scott County, you do have some downpours in your area. I'll get to the radar just a few minutes, the close-up view of that. Got to go in order of what I had everything here, so I apologize. All right, 73 outside, still very muggy out. We really haven't seen the drier air flow in dramatically yet. We've had a reduction in the amount of moisture in the air compared to yesterday, but still quite not to the point where it's exactly refreshing, right? Still kind of a muggy feel. We may feel a little bit on the easier side, a little bit more of a refreshing flow of air tomorrow, but for one day. That's it. And then it's just back to the really humid stuff for a while. All right, a lot of clouds, so temperatures really just are not any different, generally running right around 70. Here is the rainfall. This is not a full week, but nearly a week of rainfall that we've had since Friday the 13th. And still notice, 3 to 6 inches plus. I mean, these are radar estimates, but some of your gauges probably got over that limit. But why the parkways and central Kentucky, there's very few spots that did not get a significant amount of rainfall. Then you get into Indiana. There was certainly I don't want to say a sweet spot, but an area that you picked up the most of the rainfall, very close to US 50. into Indiana. And then you get into the I-64 corridor, including Louisville. It just really mattered on where you were at. Some of you have been on the lower end of the scale, some on the higher end. I think I live in southern Jefferson. I ended up with about 3/4 of an inch from the rain last night. But I don't think that was uniform in some areas in Jefferson County. So again, it was kind of stacked a little odd here, but you can tell that we had the repeating bands over and over in southern Kentucky. So at least want to give you an idea that it was quite the rainfall. I mean, it was more than a month's worth of rain fell. And that is the problem we're going to run into for the heat next week, because now all of that is saturated. The ground's wet. Everything's green. Everything's green, right? We don't have any drought scenario going on here. So all that moisture has got to go from somewhere. It's going to evaporate from the ground and evaporate from the plants that are green, and that is going to skyrocket the heat index. So we're going to talk about the actual heat numbers. It's the heat index. That's what we're most concerned about right now. Okay, more on that in a few. All right, here's a look at the satellite from space. You can see a little bit of sun showing up there in Indiana. So we'll get at least a partly cloudy sky, slowly but surely working its way in from the north today. For those of you in Kentucky, it's going to be a little bit more of a challenge to get a lot of sun here today. Here are the downpours. Let me get rid of the clouds, zoom right into Louisville. This is what you were looking at on the SkyTri camera, this band of rain. Again, no lightning indicated. So these are just showers, roughly around 71, all the way down to really New Albany and Clarksville, pretty close to the Lewis and Clark. You've got a nice little downpour. That is sinking to the south and will likely cross right into Louisville here very soon, at least around Prospect, downtown, maybe J-Town, and then certainly to Shelbyville and Eminence. It's drifting more east than it is south, so it's got a bit of a slant to it. Some areas will not get rain out of this particular band. We will be watching to see if you get another band that will develop this afternoon, as you'll see on Futurecast, as we head into later today, roughly around the parkways again. Areas that you've already picked up the heaviest of rain may pick up another round of thunderstorms this afternoon. And I do think there'll be thunderstorms compared to the showers we've had this morning. We are not expecting severe weather. They have a limit on how tall they can get, but there is a chance that we could get one or two of peace-sized hail and some brief gusty winds, say 35 miles per hour, nothing major. I think the lightning and the just heavy downpour nature will get your attention more than anything. And it's mainly going to be central and southern Kentucky and mainly this afternoon. But again, we're not outlook from the Storm Prediction Center or anything like that, as you're about to see, so we're okay. Everything looks good. That severe risk that we had last night, whoa, look at that line just diving down to the south. This is one of the reasons why we are not looking at a tremendous amount of thunderstorm activity today. This acts as a block for any moisture that's trying to move in from the Gulf of Mexico area. It can't happen. It can't get northbound, so you end up with a shield, if you will, and therefore the downpours can still form. There's still a trigger for them, but they just don't have enough kick to them compared to what we had yesterday. The outlook from the SPC does include that area where that boundary is sinking south, and then you've got your severe risk mainly for the mid-Atlantic area into Washington, D.C. and New York. That's the area to watch for today for the biggest rounds of severe weather. And don't worry about this activity. This is going to be diving south, but this is one of the reasons why I think we'll get a bit of a small, refreshing feel tomorrow. We may get cloud cover from it, but we're not worried about severe weather dropping in over us, but we'll get a little bit of a dip in the area for tomorrow before it goes bye-bye and we get into the heat. All right. I do want to also mention while we're on a national view here, you may have already seen social media posts about Hurricane Eric back into the Eastern Pacific. They have a whole set of names that are different than the Atlantic, but it's been busy. They're already on the E's, right? We haven't even gotten to Andrea yet, which is our first name system that will be in the Atlantic. This was Cat 4 at one point, made landfall as a Cat 3 this morning. First time since really the 1950s that a major hurricane has made landfall on the southwest coast there of Mexico. So a very rare setup. But anytime you have the Eastern Pacific very active, the Atlantic is typically going to be quiet. It's when the Pacific gets quiet, that's when you need to start paying more attention to the Atlantic, especially the Caribbean this year. I think is going to have a lot more activity than normal. So stay tuned. Right now, there's nothing threatening. So if you have a cruise ship or anywhere you're wanting to go, I think you'll be in fine shape. What'd you say there, JK? Talking about Alaska, the first confirmed tornado. I didn't hear that, But I do know that they had, and we didn't get a chance to talk about because of our severe risk, they had their first heat advisory ever in Alaska issued about a week ago. I think it was about a week ago. So everything's just a mess. Everything's lopsided. But it's about to get on track to what a typical summer is in the Ohio Valley, as you're about to see. Okay, here we go with the HRRR model. We'll start with that. And that's just going to be a very short-term setup. You can see the spotty showers. It's got a decent handle on that into areas north here in east of Louisville. We obviously have a little bit heavier activity than what the HRRR model is showing. But watch what happens later today. It will start to then develop the showers and those thunderstorms there across the parkways in south and east. They're going to move quickly. They're not going to linger. So I'm not as worried about a flash flooding setup with these, even though that's the most saturated ground area that we have. They will be moving. So there's a limit on that today. So that's good. They'll be drifting to the southeast, lightning, perhaps some, again, piece ice hail. Can't rule that out. And then we'll quiet things down. Tomorrow, you see just a hint of that wave that dives in from the Dakotas that has the severe risk. That will stay north of us, but we may get a bit of a northerly flow out of that, and perhaps some clouds, mostly high-level clouds that will stream in tomorrow. That will make a big difference on whether or not we hit 90. I know that's like whoopee. Who cares? Let's not rush this, but that is going to make the difference on 85 to 89 or a 90-degree type of day. I don't think we're going to hit 90. Not yet. The atmosphere is still in the process of flipping over like a pancake here over the weekend. So I think it'll be a bit of a slower start than just Friday. So Friday right now, in my opinion, if you want a day to get outside and try to get anything done without worrying about the really excessive heat, Friday is about it, guys. That's about it. Because after that, the heat will take over. And it's this large dome of high pressure that is going to be building in. And basically, I always say the big blue H is like our protector, right? It controls the weather in the southeast. It's drawn, not necessarily Bermuda high. It's a little more west of the typical Bermuda high. Bermuda high is more over here right now. So there's a bit of a weakness. If there were to be any tropical systems, that's where they would go. They would slide into there, or they would head right into Central America. But anyway, this shield allows for a lot of sinking air. It will drift over us. In general, I think it's going to stay more over Gatlinburg and, say, Pigeon Forge. Looks to be the center of it. And it stays in that spot for about 4, maybe 5 days into next week. If there's any trend I've noticed, it's that we keep extending out how long its influence will be, which is not unusual. Strong ridges like this are very tough to break down. And once they get established, they are stubborn. They do not want to go away. So as long as we have that in place and certainly positioned into the Southern Appalachians, that's going to allow for the heat to continue on repeat. Now, because it is positioned near Dollywood, that does allow for us to have a very weak flow that we could get perhaps an isolated shower or a thunderstorm later in the week. That's typical anyway. When you deal with the heat, they're going to be very isolated, but nothing on the extreme side. Now, the question I've got, just to go off on a brief tangent, and then we'll come back around to this in the coming days, is that there's a lot of data that wants to build this high more west. Skips right over it. It goes from Dollywood over to the other side of Holiday World, and it heads all the way to about St. Louis, and then eventually into Denver. Now, if that happens, yes, that's when we run into MCS land, where the flow of thunderstorms, because your high will be centered here, and the flow is clockwise, so all the thunderstorms will then race out of the Great Lakes in Minnesota and just keep diving over and over and over again. And that will put us into a severe territory that could last. Again, these high pressures are tough to break down. So once it moves and gets established in the Rockies, we may be stuck in that stormy pattern all the way through the 4th of July holiday period. I don't want to jump the gun yet and say that, but that's the trend that keeps showing up. But as I mentioned, it keeps getting pushed back nearly 24 hours every day. It delays it. So if it keeps delaying, maybe we'll hold on to the quiet pattern all the way through the 4th of July holiday. But there is a risk that if this high slides over, yeah, we're back at it again. But we'll worry about that later, all right? This is going to be a long week here where we will not have that to worry about, which is good. Let me give you a snapshot of the heat index potential. We don't get this too often, but when we do, it stands out. I don't think 2012 was probably the last time I can remember we got to this type of heat At that point, we were actually entering a drought, so it was a little different. The actual numbers got up there. I think it was 106 was the actual high in the last week of June into early July. The hottest Louisville's ever been for an actual temperature is 107, and we've done that like 4 or 5 times. Mainly 1930s was the most recent. The highest heat index Louisville's ever had is 120. It's we're not looking at that, thank goodness, right? But still, I'm not sure that there is a difference, in my opinion, of an actual number of 102 and 103 and a heat index of the same value. Why? One is what they always refer to in Vegas is the dry heat, and ours is the more humid air, right? Humidity just affects your body differently, and certainly when it comes to your lungs, it is moisture that you're talking about. So it's not so much that it's really 103 outside. There's no thermometer that's going to be placed out here in Wave Country that's going to show 103 for 4 to 5 days next week. It's our bodies that will think that is the number. And our bodies will then react to that number, and they will work your heart, your entire immune system, everything circulatory system will respond thinking that is the temperature. It's like a mind trick in a way that humidity does. And therefore you end up pushing your body to a limit that can easily lead to heat stroke that can happen. So please be careful. I'm sure we're going to get some type of heat alerts out of this. Their criteria for the Weather Service is at least 3 hours of 106. Don't know. It's not listed yet in the modeling, but we're not there yet. Once we get closer, we may start to see if that window was reached. Either way, to me, it doesn't matter. Once you cross over 100 for heat index, it starts taking a toll on you. So if your AC is not working great, get it checked now while you got a little bit of time here. If you have friends or family that don't have access to cooling, communicate with them now. Start making plans to have at least spend the daytimes with you. To where you have a chance to allow them to cool off. Please do not leave your dog outside in this kind of heat. Even in the shade, it is tough. Their bodies are going to do the same thing as our bodies are going to do. Think it's a different temperature. They have a different way of releasing that. Their panting that they do is their way of trying to balance the heat out. But it can be harmful for a dog for sure. But even their bowls of water, if you don't put ice cubes in the water, that water is going to get hot. Who wants to drink that outside, right? So think of your pets, take care of them, limit their time outside. Do not let them go on walks on that hot pavement. It will burn their paws in about 5 to 7 seconds. And if you've been barefoot and you try to walk on the sidewalk, go check the mail and your feet burn, or you walk on the deck when you're in the pool area and you get out of the water and you start walking on it and you're like, ow, 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 and you're like burning. Well, think about them. It's doing the same to them, but they can't really say that to you. So take care of our four-legged friends here as we get into the heat as well for next week and each other. I want you all to have fun. If you have a pool, you'll have a blast. This is great weather for pools. But when it comes to no access to cooling, it's just miserable. And the overnight lows, Carson was showing me data he was working on. I'll try to show you guys later today on our newscast. But, we've had several times where the city of Louisville has been struggling to get below 80 degrees. That is tough to do. And boy, when you can't cool at night, that is where I think the biggest issue comes in for our bodies, is when you can't reset each day. You just stay miserably hot day and night, that it really takes a toll on you. And there is a chance that we could have a few days next week where the city, especially in the core of the metro, does not drop below 80. So again, that's why your AC is going to go wild and trying to keep up with that. And when it's really humid, the AC really has a tough time on balancing that out. All right. So don't overdo that either. Don't strenuize it. I can't talk. Don't put it through a lot of strain. There we go. Don't set it at 67. You're going to really cut its lifespan down. Try to balance out the best you can. Use fans, but try to keep it in a reasonable setup. Okay, enough of my rambling here. Hey, Cameron, how you doing? Blue says, I'll be indoors or in a pool. There you go. There you go. Chuck, Brian, you act like it's the end of the world. Come on, it's summer. Where did I say that it's end of the world? Chuck, I'm just caring about you all. I want you to be safe because Chuck, people still leave their kids and their car and their dogs in cars in the heat like this. They still take them walking at 3 in the afternoon. I see it happen all the time, and it honestly makes me angry. So yeah, it's not the end of the world, but boy, I still apparently need to drive the point home, Chuck. So it may not apply to you. That's all right. I love you anyway, Chuck. Hey, Crispy, how you doing? Are we expecting thunderstorms in Louisville after 3 p.m. in Louisville or south of us? It'll be south after 3 p.m., Crispy. It'll be south. This is a bit of a boundary. It's coming in now. That's why it's kind of a line through the city with those showers. Carrie's like, yeah, I was in Vegas where it was a real 115. Yeah, I think when I was in Phoenix once, the low was 98, something like that. It was awful. It was a record heat wave that they were going through, but I didn't like that. I didn't like that at all. I am not no. If he wants from Phoenix, no offense. Phoenix is not for me. Not for me. I have to have the ability to reset somehow. Austin, MCS is in early July. That's what I was referring to on that high. If it slides to the west, that will be an issue, but it's still early in the game. I think we need to go slow with that idea. The earliest I think they would show up would be not this weekend, but next weekend. Next weekend, okay? Hi, ZK. I hope you're doing well. I'll be outside going grocery shopping. We're right now weekend. Nope, we don't have to worry about that for the weekend. It's worth mentioning that there will be there's always going to be a chance of a storm or two that can be triggered, especially the heat island effect around Louisville. That tends to happen if the storm we always call it busting the cap. It can punch through. That can happen in the summer heat, especially around Louisville. It happens more than anywhere because our values do seem to skyrocket a bit more with our concrete jungle here. So you tend to get a couple of downpours that pop. So be mindful of that. But I think overall, yes, we're looking at dry. Jacob, the recommended AC is 78 degrees and 84 when not home. Woo. That's very warm. I don't know if I'm that bold, but I'd probably set it on about 74, 75 during the day, and then try to get it down to about 73, 72, something like that at night. I try. But I have a lot of fans, but that's because I'm a baby and I can't sleep without a fan. That's a whole other issue. Okay, anything else? I think I got everyone. Ashley, curious what happened yesterday and why Indiana had more action than we did not. Not complaining. That's what we were talking about yesterday, is that Indiana would be first with that curl. I kept referring to it as the comma. Basically, that's what hit Indianapolis, but that is where the better wind shear will always be, is where that low pressure is. So it tracked right along it. The secondary line that formed right over Louisville, that did not have as much of a shear value to it. A lot of them were rotating yesterday. In fact, several cells at Kentucky were rotating, but they weren't able to grow to the level straight up. They were tilted over dramatically. In some cases, they were falling over. So they just weren't able to establish the updrafts. So that's not a bad thing. That was a good thing. So you got more of a straight line wind scenario and very heavy rainfall. But the ability for them to stay stronger and certainly taller. Some of these storms in Indiana I was looking at yesterday, we were tracking them, got up to about 60,000 feet, which is about the limit. So these things were massive yesterday. So I'm glad that we didn't get anything worse than that. But Indianapolis and parts of Indiana, they were not as lucky there. Okay, I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to get going. And I appreciate you all as always. Enjoy these little showers moving in today. Soak up this little rain here for a bit. And then, again, get ready for the heat into the coming days. And as Chuck says, it's not going to be the end of the world. At least that's how I think he meant it. All right. Take care, guys. I will see you all coming up on midday on the flip side. Have a good one.